Hello. For those watching, we got a new background right now. Isn't that fun? Temporary. But still my office. Normally I sit over there. Right there. Now I'm here. Anyway, there's a quote I like quite a lot, and I think it's worth talking about. And it's a simple quote, and it goes something like, "Never put off to tomorrow that which can be done today." Pretty simple. Pretty simple. However, to what extent? If you're someone who likes to just get stuff done, well, are you ever really going to get it done? And, what if you got an essay coming up, or you got an exam to study for, and you have a week? You just stay up and pull an all-nighter, even though you don't have to? Your I don't know, essay is due in a week. Do you stay up all night tonight to get it done? Because don't put off to tomorrow that which can be done today. No, I don't think so. I think this is something that is meant to encourage people to act when action is available. Does it mean sacrifice health and other things? I don't think fully. But there's always that discussion, right? So, at what point do you stop for the day? Like, for instance, me, I had some work goals today, that I'm behind on. And so typically I leave work between 8 and 8:30 p.m. At time of recording right now, that is in maximum 58 minutes. I think it's impossible for me to get done my to-do list today by that time. So, do I stay late and just do it anyway? Because it's going to almost guarantee a cutting into of my sleep time. And does it put stuff off to tomorrow? Yeah, sometimes, right? Like for me, part of that is actually just I have some administrative stuff that's, if I did all of it right now, everything administrative that I wanted to do, it would take me, if you count all correspondence I want to be on with, reviewing things for other people, business reorganization, I think we're looking at, I feel confident probably like around 50 to 70 hours to be done with the whole list of stuff that in theory I don't need to do yet. I'm not going to just stay awake that whole time, right? Like I could, so I set timers and I work on stuff every day. And as long as I'm chipping away at the overall, I feel good. And occasionally I need bigger chunks of time, and it doesn't go in an admin hour for me. It goes into like, we're just doing a work chunk, a creative burst of time where we work on something, or we just knock out a huge chunk of something. Great. But that's one of those things where, well, I have currently 39 minutes left on that timer today. And I could stay and do that now. And if I wait till tomorrow, do I start the timer over tomorrow? Or do I add 39 minutes to tomorrow's marker so I don't get behind? These are really good questions. Now, I'll tell you, for me, what I've learned is I don't do well with those things stacking. If I have to play catch up, that's really hard to do. Now, there's a limit to that. I actually think I can healthily play catch up for a period of time. I'll give you a personal example that's unrelated to work. I utilize a calorie counting app. And if you followed my post recently, I passed 600 days in a row of counting calories. And it's been great with how I've worked on body fat management and muscle mass management. Love it. It's also tracking macronutrients. 600 days. Now, technically, if I overeat or undereat, the goal is to hit 0 every day on the app. If I overeat or undereat, it changes that number to plus or negative 0. Now, how realistic is it to hit exactly 0? You can do it. You're also doing some guesswork with stuff too. You have to acknowledge that. There's a little margin of error. But if I go, let's say, over by 200 calories today, do I eat under by 200 tomorrow? Do I just ignore today? What if I do that 4 times in a week? At what point am I just not doing it right? And so a method that I've utilized is, my goal is to be zeroed out once a week. So I actually only weigh myself once a week, and I only do a body scan once a week. I say only, most people do them never, but I weigh myself and do a body scan to test muscle mass and body fat once a week. And it's the only time I check on myself that way. So my goal is that my numbers zero out by the end of the week. Now, some people will say, well, you shouldn't overcorrect and do stuff like that. I don't mind it. I know there's limits to that. There's limits to that. But for me, that's my goal, is I'll do catching up game within a week. If we've passed into the new week, I don't do it. And so finding an approach for what does it really look like to put stuff off? And what does it look like to catch up? Because you could get into a situation where you're spending your whole life feeling like you're in catch-up mode or behind mode. So there's also an element where you have to be honest with yourself regarding how you connect psychologically to growth. And in some sense, I don't think we should lie to ourselves, but I do think it's appropriate to find a somewhat arbitrary rule that gets the best results. So if you have to hit your goals every day, but you are really destroying your personal health, is that really doing much for you long term? You might say, well, the business this and my goal this, and I'm really going to question, if you're not taking care of your body and your mind, are you even actually as productive as you think you are? And at the same time, if you just are kind of wasting your time constantly, you're making no progress. So my encouragement for myself and for others is find the optimum place of where to set a standard and where to reset certain thresholds and expectations within periods of time. And when you can optimize around that, that's great. I think it's fantastic. Another one for me is my workout. I go to the gym Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday. That's when I go. I try not to miss any of those days, and if I do, all I care about is that within a roughly 7 to 10 day period, I hit all my movements. Is that perfect? No. But here in a couple weeks, I'm going to go out of town for 5.5 days, and I'm not going to pay to go to a gym out of town. So I'll probably front end some workouts and back end some workouts, but it'll still probably be 5 days of no workouts. And some people might disagree with that, but for me, I'm like, I get them in still. Whatever. And I don't mind that I'm not going to get bent out of shape over, well, you didn't hit chest, within an 8-day period, so it doesn't count. My numbers are still going up, and I'm fine. So I've been doing it that way for a while. So things like that, if you're the type of person that needs to take that week off, whatever. I don't. I find a way to work out. I'll work out Monday and Tuesday of that week instead of Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. And then whenever I get back, I'll work out the day I get back. And we'll just play a little bit of catch up. It'll take me about 3-4 days when I get back to be fully caught up, and we'll be good to go. Totally fine with me. If that would stress someone else out, then I'm like, don't do it, I guess. You just don't overthink it. Find the method that works and use it well. So don't put off to tomorrow that which can be done today. Well, we just really have to reflect on that. Do I go home tonight and do I read my fiction book and wind down, or do I play catch up on some of the nonfiction? You have to balance out a lot. But I think reflecting on that question, what does it mean? What does it mean? So, and I'll also say this, you don't have to live by that quote, and I would say I don't, but it does poke onto the question of how do we move forward? Because technically you can always do something, right? As a therapist, if someone says, hey, are you free, let's say Friday afternoon to do a session? And I'm like, actually, my Friday afternoon, I'm watching TV. And they might say, which I would never respond that way to an inquiry. But technically I'm available, right? I could meet. I could do a virtual appointment. I could even drive into the office. I don't want to. I don't do appointments on Fridays. Very rarely do I. Very rarely. Maybe once a year, if that. And that's for a crisis, potentially. So it's not a thing I do. But I'm technically available, right? Just like if your friends say, hey, are you free tonight? And you just want to stay in, you can say, I'm not free. So where is the limit, right? People will say, well, you're leaving money at the door. You could just have the appointment. You could just work an hour later every night. What do you mean you only work 1 or 2 evenings a week doing mental health? People need weekends and evenings. Why don't you work every weekend day and evenings, and then you can fill your caseload? What do you mean you're charging $150 or more dollars a session? This person, they'll pay you $80 and you're telling them no. You're just leaving money. And it's, if you're in business, you understand that that's somewhat silly. But there's also some truth to that, right? Of, you charge $150, this person can do $80. Do you need the money? Do you have the hour free? The point, though, is you just need to be careful and mindful where you draw lines. And I would say, like, if you can meet, do you meet? I don't know. Is there a season of life where you need to provide for your family? It's like, I know you don't like working Fridays, but you're also in the red every month. So maybe you need to just buck up and you're available more than you'd like to be. Now, I don't think you should just be scatter plot available, but it might mean, I'll use myself as an example. I worked on Sundays for 5-6 years before I finally got rid of them. And, if I'm in a position where financially I need to work Sundays again, I just will and do it without shame. Does it mean my business is doing worse or I'm regressing? Maybe, maybe not. But if I'm not concerned about that, I'm concerned about what does my family need? And there's a lot of people in this world that are wanting Sundays. It's like, okay, do I work Sundays again? Fair question, right? And same with this. Like, I have this task that I have 39 more minutes on my timer on my phone to get through admin. What's going to happen if I do or don't do it? Today, nothing. But if I do that every day, well, we start to stack some stuff, don't we? So you just need to reflect. What is the needs? What does the business need? What do you need? What does your family need? What is your mental, spiritual, physiological, psychological, if you separate that from mental maybe? What do you need? What are your needs? What needs to happen, right? And let that assist in your answer. And then there's also the question of, should you ever play a video game when there's something good that needs done? We get into these questions of what does rest actually look like? And I'm going to tell you, rest is actually not your electronics or your book. Rest is sleep, and it's connection. That might be a bit of a hot take, but I actually don't think watching TV is considered rest. That's entertainment. You can relax while you're doing it, but that's not how you rest. That's a topic for another video, and it's actually a fun topic for me. But I think it's perfectly healthy to do those things, but it's not quite the same as resting. So, yeah, don't put off to tomorrow that which can be done today. What does that mean to you? I'd like to hear that. Is it a quote worth living by? Is there a limit to it? How does it apply? Is it circumstantial? That's what I got today. If you have thoughts on it, as always, I absolutely want to hear it. And outside of that, I will look forward to seeing you next Monday. And I think we're 2 weeks out from my 100th week in a row of this. So get excited for that. I need to make sure I don't forget that that's the week and not just make a normal video. I want to do something special. So yeah, stay tuned for that in 2 weeks from today if you're watching on the day I post. So anyway, that's that. Happy Monday, and see y'all next week.